Hey, how are you doing? In today's video, I want to talk to you about a simple cowboy breakfast and what God told me about gratitude. You know, I've been thinking about something that happened to me about 6 months ago. I was out on my friend's ranch. Early morning, the sun wasn't even up yet, and I was sitting there with nothing but a cup of coffee and my own thoughts, and it hit me like a ton of bricks. I've spent 30 years helping people. 30 years listening to their pain, 30 years trying to fix what's broken inside them. And somewhere along the way, I forgot something fundamental. I forgot to be grateful. It sounds simple, right? Almost too simple. But let me tell you, that simplicity is exactly what's killing us. We've got more than any generation in human history. More food, more comfort, more convenience, more everything. Yet we're the most miserable we've ever been. People come into my office and they're angry, they're resentful, they're anxious, and they've got everything a person could want. They've got the house, the car, the career, the family, but they're dying inside because they've forgotten how to say thank you. They've forgotten how to look at what they have and feel something other than what's missing. My wife and I have been married 40 years. We've raised 7 kids. We've sat with thousands of people in crisis. And I'm telling you right now, the people who recover, the people who actually find peace, they're not the ones with the most. They're the ones who learn to be grateful for what they have. A young woman came to see me last month. She's got a 6-figure income, beautiful apartment in the city. Everything on social media looks perfect. But she's taking 3 different medications for anxiety. She's not sleeping, she's not eating, and when I asked her what was wrong, she just looked at me and said, "I don't know how to be happy anymore, Dr. Silver. I don't know what would actually make me feel complete." That question haunted me for weeks, because the answer is so simple, so obvious, and yet we're all running from it. If you're drowning in plenty and dying of scarcity in your own mind, hit that subscribe button. Because we need to talk about gratitude in a way that actually changes something. Because here's what I know after 40 years of marriage and 30 years of counseling and thousands of people sitting in front of me at their lowest point. Gratitude isn't an emotion. It's a discipline. And when you finally understand that, when you finally practice it like your life depends on it, everything shifts. The Bible has been screaming this at us for 2,000 years, but we keep covering our ears and asking for more. But to understand how this all started, I need to take you back to something that changed me forever. And on that day, everything seemed perfectly normal. I was 28 years old. I had just finished my doctorate. My wife was pregnant with our 3rd child. We were living in a small apartment in the city. We didn't have much money. We didn't have much of anything, really. But I remember that morning so clearly. I woke up at 5 in the morning. My wife was still sleeping, and I made coffee on our old stove. The kind of coffee that takes time, the kind that you have to pay attention to. I sat by the window, and I just watched the sunrise. And I felt something that I hadn't felt in years. Complete contentment. I wasn't thinking about what I didn't have. I wasn't planning my next achievement. I wasn't worried about anything. I was just present, with a cup of coffee and a sunrise and the knowledge that my wife was sleeping in the next room and we were about to become parents again. That moment was everything. It was full. It was enough. I told my wife about it when she woke up, and she made me breakfast. Nothing fancy, just eggs and toast and bacon. We sat at our little table, and we talked about our hopes for the baby, and we laughed about how we were probably going to be terrible at parenting 3 kids. That day was simple, but it was rich. It was abundant in the way that matters. My wife looked at me and said, "John, remember this feeling, because life's going to get complicated, and you're going to forget how to feel like this, and you're going to have to work really hard to get back." She was right. She usually is. The breaking point came about 10 years later. I had become successful. My practice was thriving. We'd bought a bigger house. We had a nice car. My kids went to good schools. Everything looked good on paper, but something had shifted inside me. Something had gotten twisted. I wasn't grateful anymore. I was hungry. Every achievement just made me want more. Every purchase just made me notice what else I didn't have. Every success just pointed out the next mountain I had to climb. I was running on a treadmill that never stopped. And the crazy part was, my wife and I started fighting about it. Not about money, not about things, but about the fact that I couldn't just enjoy what we had. She'd say, "John, look at our life. Look at what we've built. Can't you just be happy for a minute?" And I'd snap at her. I'd say, "I can't be happy because I know what I'm capable of achieving. And I haven't achieved it yet." I was so focused on the future that I was missing the present. I was so obsessed with what I didn't have that I couldn't see what I already possessed. My kids noticed it too. They'd ask me to come to their games, their concerts, their school events. And I'd show up, but I wouldn't be there. Not really. My body was present, but my mind was somewhere else, planning the next thing, calculating what I needed to do next. One of my daughters, she was maybe 14 at the time, she asked me after one of her soccer games, "Dad, do you even like coming to watch me play?" I said, "Of course I do, sweetheart." And she said, "Then why do you always look so angry?" That question broke me. It actually broke me, because she was right. I wasn't grateful. I was angry. Angry that life wasn't moving fast enough. Angry that I wasn't where I wanted to be yet. Angry that there was always more to do and more to want. But here's the thing that nobody talks about, and this is what actually destroyed me for a while. The moment my daughter asked me that question, that wasn't the worst part. The worst part came after, because I started noticing everything I'd missed, and the realization of it was suffocating. I had missed my kids growing up. Not metaphorically, I'd actually missed it. I was so busy building something that I didn't even know when they stopped needing me the way they used to. One day, my oldest son, he was getting ready to move away for college, and I realized I couldn't remember what his favorite movie was. I couldn't remember the last real conversation we'd had. I couldn't remember when he stopped being a little boy and became a young man. And the shame hit me like nothing I'd ever felt before. This wasn't the shame of failure. This was the shame of wasted time. The shame of choosing achievement over presence. The shame of having everything and somehow missing everything. My wife found me in our bedroom one night just sitting on the bed. And she didn't ask me what was wrong. She just sat down next to me and took my hand. And I told her, I wasted it. I had 20 years with our kids, and I wasted most of it chasing something that didn't matter. The silence in that room was unbearable, because it was the silence of truth. The truth that you can't get time back. The truth that gratitude isn't optional if you want a real life. My wife said, "You didn't waste it. You're here now. That's what matters. But you've got to understand something." She said, "Gratitude isn't something you feel when everything's perfect. Gratitude is something you choose when you're finally paying attention." That hit me deeper than anything she'd ever said. If you've ever had that moment where you realize you've been sleepwalking through your own life, where you've been so focused on what's next that you missed what's right in front of you, leave a comment down below. I read every single one, because that moment, as painful as it is, that's the moment that saves you. Now, when I think about gratitude, I always think about one person in the Bible, Job. Not Job at the end of his story when he's been restored. I'm talking about Job when he lost everything. When he lost his children, his wealth, his health, his everything. You see, Job was a man who had it all. He was successful. He was respected. He had 10 children. He had vast herds. He had security. But somewhere in that success, he'd forgotten something. He'd forgotten to check his own heart. He'd forgotten to look at what he had and feel something other than the burden of maintaining it. And then, in a single day, it all left this world. Everything. His children died. His property was destroyed. His health failed. And he sat in the dust, broken and alone. Now, most people think the worst part for Job was the loss itself. But that's not what gets me about Job's story. It's what happened after the loss. Job's friends came to comfort him, but they didn't comfort him. They accused him. They said he must have done something wrong. They said his suffering was punishment. They made him feel ashamed on top of everything else. And Job, in his pain, he actually cursed the day he was born. He said it would have been better if he'd never existed. That's rock bottom. That's when a person has lost so much that they don't even want to see tomorrow. Job spent months in this darkness, sitting in the ashes, covered in sores, abandoned by everyone except his wife. And his wife, she was in such pain that she told him to give up completely. She said, "Why don't you just curse God and end this?" She couldn't watch him suffer anymore. She wanted it to be over. But here's what breaks me about Job's story. Here's what actually saved him. Job sat there in that darkness, and he didn't try to rationalize it. He didn't try to convince himself that everything was going to be okay. He didn't try to find gratitude for what he'd lost. Instead, he just sat there, honest, raw, broken. And he said something that changed everything. He said, "Though he slay me, yet will I trust him." He said, "The Lord gave, and the Lord hath taken away. Blessed be the name of the Lord." Now people read that, and they think Job was grateful in the traditional sense. But that's not what he was doing. What Job was doing was fundamentally different. He was choosing to trust in the midst of loss. He was choosing to acknowledge God's goodness even when he couldn't feel it. He was practicing gratitude not as a feeling, but as an act of will. And that act of will is what actually healed him. Because gratitude isn't about being happy with what you have. Gratitude is about acknowledging that what you have is a gift, not something you've earned. It's about recognizing that every breath, every moment, every relationship is something you don't deserve, but you've been given anyway. That's the kind of gratitude that changes everything. So, here's what I want you to understand after 30 years of sitting with people in their worst moments. People who've lost everything. People who've learned to be grateful in the ashes. Gratitude isn't a luxury. It's a lifeline. And you don't wait until you lose everything to practice it. So here's what I want you to do starting today. And I want you to actually do this. Not think about it. Actually do it. First, I want you to go back to basics. I want you to make a simple breakfast. Not fancy, not impressive, simple. If you can, do it like a cowboy, on a fire, with your hands. Eggs and coffee and bread. Nothing more. And while you're making it, I want you to notice everything. Notice the smell of the coffee. Notice the sound of the eggs cooking. Notice the warmth of the fire. Because that's where gratitude lives. In the present moment. In the simple things. My wife and I, we do this every Sunday morning. We wake up early. We make coffee together. We don't talk about what we need to do that week. We just sit and we drink coffee and we watch the sunrise. And in that moment, we practice gratitude. Not for what we have, but for the fact that we're alive to experience it. Second, I want you to pick one person in your life that you've been taking for granted. And I want you to tell them something specific that you're grateful for. Not a generic thank you, but something specific. Something that shows you've actually been paying attention. Say something like, "I was thinking about the time you, and I realized how much that meant to me. And I just want you to know that I don't say it enough, but I'm grateful for you." Most people are dying for someone to notice them, to actually see them. That's what gratitude does. It makes people feel seen. Third, I want you to identify one thing you've been chasing, one achievement or possession or status that you've been so focused on that you've missed your actual life. And I want you to ask yourself a hard question. I want you to ask, is this worth the cost? Because everything has a cost, and sometimes the cost is too high. My friend David, he spent 20 years climbing the corporate ladder. He missed his daughter's entire childhood, and when he finally made it to the top, he realized he was sitting at the top of a mountain completely alone. He quit. He started over. And he told me, I had to lose everything I thought I wanted to find what I actually needed. That's what gratitude teaches you. It teaches you the difference between what the world says you should want and what your soul actually needs. That young woman who came to see me, the one making 6 figures and dying inside, you know what happened? I didn't try to fix her. I didn't prescribe anything. I just asked her to do one thing. I asked her to spend 1 week not thinking about what she wanted next. Just 1 week of noticing what she already had. She thought I was crazy, but she did it. And you know what she told me the next time I saw her? She said, Dr. Silver, I didn't know I had this much. I was so busy wanting more that I never looked at what I already possessed. She started taking her medication differently, not as a crutch, but as a tool to help her be present. She started going to dinner with friends and actually being there. She started noticing beauty in her apartment instead of always seeing what else she could buy. She started living, and it all started with gratitude. I think about my daughter now. She's grown. She's got her own family. And a few years ago, I asked her if she remembered asking me why I always looked so angry. She said she did, and I told her, I'm sorry. I'm sorry I wasn't present. I'm sorry I missed so much of your childhood because I was chasing something that didn't matter. And she hugged me, and she said, Dad, I'm grateful you're here now. That's what matters. That's the gift of gratitude. It gives you a second chance. It doesn't erase what you missed, but it allows you to start again. And that's what the Cowboy Breakfast taught me. On that ranch, sitting by the fire, making simple food with my own hands, I understood something that no achievement could ever teach me. The most abundant moment is the present moment, and the only way to experience it is to be grateful for it. Not grateful for what's coming next. Not grateful for what you're going to accomplish, but grateful for right now, for this breath, for this moment, for the people around you. That's everything. If you're ready to stop running and start living, hit that like button. If you're tired of chasing something that doesn't satisfy, subscribe to this channel because we talk about real life every single week. And in the comments, I want to know, what's one simple thing you have that you've been taking for granted? What's one person in your life that you need to tell you're grateful for? Tell me. I read every single comment, and your answer might be the reminder that someone else needs to actually appreciate their life. I'll see you in the next one.